So episode 3 of Kingdom picks up where the last episode left off, where we saw the lion cubs were about to get trampled by elephants. Lo and behold, this cliffhanger doesn't so much get resolved, so much as just doesn't really happen. Like, the elephants walk past, the lion cubs get away. It was kind of a pretty pointless way of ending the last episode. I do think the cliffhangers are going to annoy me, but to be fair, it's kind of the only thing that's really annoying me, so that's something. So this episode, as I suspected, focused quite heavily on the lions. The lions were definitely the main characters in this one, which was interesting because they were the baddies for so long in the last few episodes. It was kind of a weird change, to be honest. The main lion's Rita. We don't get as much of a personality with her as we did with the other ones we focused on, like Alimba, Matima, like the hyenas, Storm, the wild dog. The wild dogs do not pop up in this episode, so interesting. But no, the lions did have a lot of chance to shine here, and they were definitely a lot more sympathetic. We saw Rita was looking after her cubs, and there's the one cub we saw in the last episode that was clearly blind in one eye. You already rooted for that one. And she's kind of alone with her cubs, and she manages to bring down a buffalo almost by herself. Her sister does come in and help her at the end, and they do highlight that she has to leave her cubs behind to bring down this buffalo, which you don't really think too much of at the time, because you're like, okay, the cubs will be fine. Not so. The cubs get killed by hyenas, and that was quite a brutal moment of the episode. Because you already care about the cubs, especially that one cub that was blind in one eye, it does feel pretty tragic. And it is weird because the lions were the baddies for so long, and we watched them kill the cubs of everything else. It is still pretty harrowing to watch their cubs get killed. It's obviously not shown. You see the hyenas kind of running past, and then Rita comes along and finds that her cubs are dead. I actually do commend this series for having the balls to go to pretty dark places. Like, every episode's featured a pretty, impactful death, I think. So I think that's good. Ultimately, that is nature. And then to make things even worse, the two male lions that were basically, protecting the pride, they were the main threat. They were basically killing everything else. They wander out of the park, and lo and behold, they get shot. So there's no males left of this pride. It's just the females, and there's not that many of them, to be fair. It's interesting, considering how much of a threat they were in the last two episodes. It's kind of interesting watching them get brought down to their knees. It shows you that no one species is dominant forever, and they are really struggling. They've got to leave their territory, like cross this crocodile and hippo-infested water, to get to another side where they've managed to bring down a buffalo there, which is yet another good buffalo sequence. However, there's another pride there, which is definitely stronger, that manages to drive them back into their territory. It's really humbling watching them get taken down a peg or two. What I will say is, because the lions are no longer the baddies, there isn't actually a villainous presence in this series anymore. That's something that this episode definitely felt like it was missing from the first two episodes. I liked that there was this really malevolent force that was, really making things difficult for everyone else. That's kind of gone here, but it's still a good episode, still pretty good. We also continue to get stuff with the leopards, mainly Matima, as I kind of suspected. We see her growing up. We see her kind of do the same thing she did in the last episode. I will say this episode does retread a lot of similar ground from the last two episodes, but, it's still fine, it's still good. With her, in her case, it's kind of fine because it shows you her progression. In the last episode, we watched her kind of try and take on these storks, and she was able to do it, but not that well. This time we see she's much better at it, so that was pretty cool. And Alimba continues to try and attract mates. As I kind of suspected, Matima was the leopard we'd focus on mainly, looks like going forward, but we still saw bits of her, so, it was fine. The hyenas also had quite a lot to do here. There was an interesting sequence at the start where the hyenas are approaching the lions as if they're going to steal a kill, and I was kind of like, yeah, I've kind of seen this already, like in this series, the hyenas steal kills. We've seen it loads before, it's very much okay. But no, they actually feed alongside the lions, which is very interesting. In this situation, there were only two lions there. There were a lot more hyenas. It was interesting that both species were feeding on the same carcass together in a very uneasy truce. That sequence went from me going, yeah, okay, I've seen this before, to being something that I'd never even really considered would be possible. So that was actually pretty good. It was a nice surprise. And as the episode goes on, the hyena stuff is pretty good. We focus more on Tenta in this episode. I called her Tanda in last episode, but to be fair, I think I've got at least one name wrong in every video I've done, and I will probably continue to do that as we go on. She's the clan leader, and Tandala kind of takes a step back. And as the episode goes on, we see they enter the rainy season, and there's a lot more rain this time than there was last time round. However, that's devastating for the hyenas because it completely floods their den and kills pretty much all the cubs, which is kind of depressing because obviously last episode we watched the one cub die, but the one solace of that was that all the other ones survived. This time we see that really none of them did. I mean, Tenta's do, but they're not really cubs anymore. Like Tandala's one is almost certainly dead. Tandala's missing as well. But then this episode, she's just missing in action. She may be dead. Maybe that's why they shifted the focus to Tenta. I don't know. But it's definitely, I was definitely invested in her story. And again, as I said in the last few episodes, this one continued to not portray the highness in a villainous way. I like that. We follow her kind of trying to navigate through this new world because it's obviously so wet. Vast areas are now unrecognisable, and she's able to find, what looks like most of her clan again. However, because she's not there, everything's descended into chaos, and that's very interesting. It kind of reminded me of the stuff in Parenthood with the sociable weavers. This is a very different kind of scenario. Obviously, it's not temperature, but we see that when that one dominant animal is removed from the situation, the hierarchy just deteriorates, and everyone's fine. We see like hyenas are in pretty bad shape. Some are scarred. One of them's ears like hanging off, pretty grim. And we see that when she comes back, she restores some semblance of order. That was good. And this episode ends with yet another cliffhanger of Matima getting attacked by Limba, and she kind of starts fighting her. And that's how it ends. I feel like I'm cautiously more optimistic for how that one's going to be resolved, although it almost certainly will just be resolved like that. But you know, I'm interested to see where it goes. So yeah, this episode was good. I really liked this episode as I've liked the other ones. As I said, there was a little bit of retreaded territory, but there was a lot of new stuff. The stuff with the lions was pretty good. I actually did like them a lot more in this episode. They were good. The hyenas again continue to be great. I actually think I'm probably the most invested in the hyenas at this point. Again, the leopards, all good stuff. The wild dogs were missing, but again, that was fine. It gave the lions more time to shine. And again, the hyenas, leopards, they still got stuff to do as well. Really good stuff. So yeah, let me know in the comments below what you thought of this episode, what were your highlights. And yeah, I'll be doing the next one next week, so look forward to that. And as ever, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe, or don't if you don't want to. It's perfectly fine. And I'll see you next week, and goodbye.